A strike phosphorescent cadmium sulfide plate which glows upon particle collision. That's what phosphorescent means. And there's a song by Linkin Park called Iridescent. You should listen to that also. I mean, there's another word. I'll not go into details. You can Google it. What is the meaning of iridescent? There are three words that you need to look up: iridescent, fluorescent. I already told you, evanescent. Okay, so things work. Continuing on, what we are talking about is now I want to talk about some graphs. That is the main deal actually. Once you know that what is happening, the graphs can really help you. Okay. So before I take you to the graphs, I'll tell you about Einstein's photoelectric equation. That's the equation that governs all the graphs and patterns that you see, all the experimental data that was collected. Okay, so I'll talk about Einstein's photoelectric equation. That will give you much clarity about how the photoelectric effect works. So Einstein used to say that, I mean, he observed and theorized that energy of photon, that is light particle, that equal to h nu, where h is the Planck's constant. What is the value of Planck's constant? In SI units, Planck's constant h is equal to 6.63 into 10 to the power minus 34. Never mind the SI unit, never mind the units. Okay, no need to remember the units. This is the value of Planck's constant. Nu is the frequency of light or photon, light basically, which is falling onto the photosensitive plate. So frequency of light is basically in hertz, essentially HERTZ, hertz. And Einstein said that h nu is the total energy that is falling on the plate when a photon, like this is a light, so one of the photons, you can see I have drawn 3 light rays which amounts to 3 photons. Each photon may not necessarily result, but for simplicity we can say each photon results in an electron emission, because we studied about 3 ways of electron emission. One is thermo emission, where you heat the metal so much that the electrons come out. The other one is field emission, where you apply so much electric field that the electrons come out. Lastly, you apply light onto the metal surface, so that that photon itself gives the energy to the electron, and right. So h nu is the energy, total energy of photon, total incident energy that is falling onto the metal plate. That is equal to the kinetic energy of the photons plus phi. Okay. Or phi is equal to h nu naught, where nu naught is called the cutoff frequency or threshold frequency, cutoff wavelength, you can say, or threshold frequency. So what happens is that phi is called the work function of the metal. Right? Phi is called the work function of the metal. Nu naught cutoff or threshold frequency or wavelength. So the weird part is that phi, the work function, is equal to h nu naught. So if you want to talk about first, I mean, the equation will become very clear to you in just a moment. If you give me a minute's time, this is the kinetic energy of electron that has emitted. So kinetic energy of electron. So how the system works is that phi is the minimum energy absorbed by the electron to come out of the metal surface. Is that understood? Like you need to apply a certain amount of energy. For example, when you drive on a road, there is a toll tax. So when you reach the toll tax place, you have to pay some very small amount of toll tax, maybe 100 or 200 rupees maximum. So that is the tax that you pay, or that is the amount that you pay to, basically cross the gate, right, to move forward in the road. Have you ever observed a toll tax? Same thing, right? I mean, here also, the electron, just to get out of the metal, it needs some energy. For example, if some live independently, they have to spend some amount of money, minimum, electricity, etc., rent. Similarly, for electron also, electron doesn't go out just like that. For the electron to go out of the metal, you need to give it energy. And that energy comes from the photon, basically. Now, the amazing part is that that value is very fixed for every metal, as long as we are talking about electrons which are close to the surface, right? So if an electron is deep inside the metal surface, then it might need more energy to come out, because it is much more inside. So attractive forces are very predominant on the electron. So if the electron is deep inside the metal, then it needs more energy. But nevertheless, the minimum amount of energy which for electrons which are right on the surface of the metal, they still require some energy to even just to get out of the metal. That is called the work function. That part is clear as much.
Yes, sir.
And then remaining energy, what will happen? See, energy can neither be created nor destroyed, which is absolutely, because Einstein all E equal to mc square. So in nuclear reactions and chemical reactions, mass is converted to energy by the formula E equal to mc square. But until we get to that part, we can totally ignore the fact that energy and mass are interconvertible. You can think of energy as a conserved physical quantity. So conservation of energy is applied. Total energy, you have h nu, which is being imparted onto the metal surface. That energy has to be absorbed by some electron. That's how the world works. We can't question it why it is happening. We just know the experiment that the electron accepts all the energy from a photon, and some of that energy is lost or given to the metal. Basically, the electron doesn't have that energy now, that has been given to the metal, and the kinetic energy is the remaining energy of the emitted electron, right? So total energy, which is h nu, the photon energy. So frequency going higher means more energy, is equal to phi, the work function, that is the energy required to go out, energy required to get out the metal surface. Minimum, I should say, but anyway, energy required to get out of the metal surface. And then what else do we have? Plus K, kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the remaining energy. So whatever energy remains after coming out, that is utilized as kinetic energy. It is totally possible that the work function is equal to the total energy. Then you'll have zero kinetic energy, that the electron only comes out, but it doesn't have any, very close to zero speed. Okay, so that's not a very good thing, because you want the electron on the absorber plate where it is being absorbed. So it is necessary to have some kind of kinetic energy on it. But the thing is that there is a positive potential here. There's a negative potential here according to this battery. I hope you're able to see. Even if the electron just comes out, then also the positive plate will attract because there is an electric field going in this direction from positive to negative plate. So the force on the electron is in this direction. Even if the electron is just able to come out, I mean, the field can also make it come out by field emission, but it is not that strong, the field that is. So it does help the electron to come out, but it's not really the field which is causing the main difference. It is the light which shines on the metal, which provides majority of the energy that is required to get the electron out of the plate. And then rest, it can have a kinetic energy, which will carry it to the positive plate. Also, the positive plate will attract it, or it could have a zero kinetic energy. Still, the positive plate will attract it. That's how it sort of works, right? So that's why the terminology cutoff or threshold frequency. This is the minimum frequency of light for photoelectric emission. Minimum frequency for photoelectric emission. Do you understand? A lot of things here. Good, good, good. So anyway, you can just remember this one equation, H nu equal to K plus phi. H nu is the total energy, K is the remaining energy after it has already given phi energy to the metal just to come out. That is the whole story in just a small line. H nu plus K equal to K plus phi. Just 4 letters can tell you the whole story actually, once you understand it properly. Now, the main thing that we are about to discuss is that how does this photoelectric effect depend on different things? Like, for example, if I draw the graph between photocurrent, we'll discuss that in a while. What happens in photocurrent? Photocurrent means exactly what happens in photocurrent is that photocurrent, firstly, let me explain, is basically how much current is passing through the wire. How much current is passing through the wire. That is what photocurrent is all about. So that could be large or small, depending on how many electrons are reaching the cadmium sulfide acceptor plate, in a particular amount of time per second actually. Ampere is coulomb per second, right? So coulomb will be decided by how many electrons are reaching. And once you know how many electrons are reaching, you can find the current also. Every second, that is, how many electrons are reaching the acceptor plate. So there is a graph between photocurrent, that is I, and frequency of light, that is nu. So the graph is actually a straight line. Okay, which is, sorry, not frequency, intensity. We'll talk about frequency also in a while. The intensity of light basically versus the photocurrent is actually a straight line graph. Nothing but a straight line. The reason behind that being, I'll explain. More the intensity actually translates to, in the particle picture of light, more will be the number of photons striking the emitter plate per second. I.e., that is, it will lead to more current. It will lead to more electron emission per second. which will translate to more photocurrent. You can note this down actually, all of this. I will title this particular part as photocurrent versus intensity of light. I hope you follow. So please note this part down.
Yes, sir.
Even the part that effect of photoelectric current. Okay, effect of potential on photoelectric current. So there are many relations in photoelectric effect. The second one being the effect of potential on photocurrent. Okay, how does it work? Let's find out. The graph will be sufficient, but we will have to refer to the Einstein's equation to understand it properly. Also to the experimental setup, how it exactly works. Okay, so let's take a look. The graph goes something like this. So I'll show you just 3 different graphs actually. 1, 2, 3. You can see that the graphs originate from the same point, which is called minus V naught, also known as the stopping potential. And then you can also observe, you may observe that the intensity of light is different for the 3 graphs. So the photocurrent is also different. Okay, the current is totally different. I1, I2, and I3. This is called photo. Like how much current is flowing. You can see as the intensity, as the potential increases, the photocurrent also increases. You can think of just one graph, one at a time. So for example, just think of the smallest, the lowest graph. Okay. Here, just forget about the 2 other lines. What you can see is that the photocurrent is 0 as the collector plate potential becomes 0. I mean, as it becomes negative. So what is happening is that you can actually stop the current from starting once you have negative potential. Okay, so let me just change my settings a little. Okay, I've changed them. So just observe the lowest graph, the yellow green one. You will see that the photocurrent is 0 for a certain amount of negative potential. What does that mean? That means in the experimental setup, you could actually have a negative potential. How do you get a negative potential? Just by having opposite battery. If you put the battery opposite like this, the same setup is there. Never mind the evacuation chamber. Then this is positive, this is negative. In that case, the electron which comes out actually attracted side. So even electrons which are very energetic, they will also finally end up in the emitter plate itself. So no electrons, theoretically, 0 electrons reach the collector plate. If 0 electrons reach the collector plate, I is equal to 0. That happens when if this stopping potential is there, potential V naught is equal, V is equal to V naught, or you can say minus V naught. So you can stop an electron from reaching the collector plate by applying an opposite polarity of potential difference. That way electrons which get out of the metal plate do not reach the other metal plate, and that way you don't have any photocurrent. That's exactly what's happening right here, which is the stopping potential part. Now you can see it's not a linear curve. Okay, it's a curvature. So there's linearity here. First of all, things to observe. And this is called saturation current. That current doesn't go beyond this. Like, for example, if you forget about the opposite polarity, you can think of it this way, that now it is just the same, the black figure. So in that one, what you see is that electrons which come out actually cadmium plate, that is the absorber plate, collector plate. Now the collector plate will have all the electrons that have come out on it at a particular potential. The more the potential, the higher the attraction towards the collector plate, the more the likelihood for the electrons to reach the collector plate. Now collector plate electrons can reach the collector plate also without a potential or with even an opposite potential. But if it's a positive potential, then definitely most of them should reach. As you keep on increasing the potential difference between the negative and the positive plate, that is the emitter and the collector plate, more and more electrons are ready to come out and reach the collector plate. Up to an extent that when all the electrons that were possible to bring out of the system, that is the emitter plate, all of them have reached the collector plate. If all of them have reached the collector plate, that means no more current can be found, because there are no more harvest. Now, if there are no more electrons to harvest for current, that means that you have reached a saturation of current value. After that, even if you increase the frequency or the potential, for example, it's very rare that an electron will come out. So the weird this curve is that, okay, there is a saturation current and there is a stopping potential. Those are the two main things that you need to learn about. Also, if you increase the intensity, for example, I2 is greater than I1 is greater than I3 is greater than I2. So as you keep on increasing the intensity, the photocurrent keeps on increasing also. Because as I told you, intensity is about number of photons falling on a particular surface. If the photon number is large, then the electron number will also be large. So if you increase the number of photons by increasing the intensity of the light source, for example, then you're going to have a larger current throughout. I mean, at stopping potential, all of the electrons will stop, but there will be no current for all three intensities. But as you increase the intensity, the current keeps on growing larger and larger as you increase the intensity. So I2 is always, photocurrent in case of I2 is always greater than I1. I3 is always greater than I2 and I1. So like until you have reached a part where no more electrons are available to increase the photocurrent, so it reaches a saturation. Is this part clear?
Like you can tell like the part about saturation current, like what is it exactly?
Yeah, see electrons that are, I'll explain, that are coming out of the inner plate, right? They are actually limited by the frequency of light. No more electrons can come out after a certain threshold. So if no more electrons can come out after a certain threshold, then 101%, now you can have no more electrons on the collector plate. You have actually utilized all of them which came out. Now coming out of the emitter plate is a matter of frequency and work function. Okay, if the frequency is h nu is less than work function, then no electrons will come out. If the frequency is a certain amount, then all the electrons might come out, but then depends on the potential. If the potential is large, slowly, even field emission comes into the picture, and more electrons are ready to come out. After a certain amount of potential has been applied, positive potential that is, all the electrons that could come out have come out and have reached the collector plate, sulfide plate, and then they have contributed to the photocurrent that is I. So photocurrent basically increases as you increase the intensity, but as you increase the potential. But at a certain point, all the electrons that could have come out and have reached. Now there are no more electrons waiting. Just like an empty bank account, you can swipe the card as much as you want, but it won't work because you have zero balance. So I'm just saying to you in one way. So if you have 0 rupees in the account, swiping a card will not help you, right? So that's the kind of thing that we are talking about here, that electron will come out. You have used up all the electrons now. And they have also reached the collector plate. So it has produced the current that was supposed to be produced, that could have been produced and has been produced. After that, you will not have any more current coming out. That's the whole deal about this potential versus photocurrent business. Okay, that's how it sort of works. So can you draw the graphs, please?
So completed.
And any more questions are much appreciated.
So like
Okay,
the metal whichever has like more atomic number, that will have more electron emission, right?
Which one has more what?
More atomic number or more electrons? More atomic numbers.
See, atomic number, first of all, it's not part of the syllabus, how the atomic number affects. But anyway, when you talk about atomic number, you're actually talking about the element itself. And there's a table in NCERT which elucidates that sodium has the least potential, threshold frequency or work function. It is easiest to get electrons out of sodium because electrons are very freely bound. And then potassium, and then there is lead and higher elements there, which probably are not that easy to get electrons out of, heavy metals, that is. So basically, the whole point is that it's not about the atomic number, actually. It's about how much bound the electron is. The higher the boundation, and which also translates to atomic number, no doubt about that. Usually, not necessarily always. So what happens is that as the atomic number increases, the number of protons in the nucleus increases. Hence, it leads to more boundation energy, binding energy between the electron and the nucleus, that is. So by increasing the atomic number, you are essentially increasing the attraction between the electron and proton. And hence you require more and more light energy to get electrons out of that particular metal. Are you able to follow this one?
Yes, sir.
Right. So essentially what we are looking at is this much. Okay. Now next what we're talking about is effect of frequency of incident radiation on stopping potential. So the other graph, so I'm not writing much here. It is understood more or less from the graph. You have to understand the graph. The reading of the text will not help you that much. You can ask me again tomorrow after revising. I don't mind if you ask me day after also, but you have to be very clear about the graphs. Okay, that's all that there is to this chapter. Most of them are just explaining the graphs. That'll give you the whole picture actually. Now I'll talk about effect of frequency versus stopping potential. The stopping potential you can see is V minus V naught in the graph. Now, what is the effect of frequency on the stopping potential? Let's see. So if I draw the graph again, the stopping potential is linearly dependent on the frequency. So if I write stopping potential on the y-axis, for example, and I write frequency on the x-axis. As the frequency increases, the stopping potential also increases. But then if you have two different metals, you will have different stopping potentials and different graphs actually. Stopping potential with frequency. Reason being, if we look at the Einstein's photoelectric equation, let's say this is metal A, this is metal B, 2. Nu is more than nu naught. That is the is more than the threshold frequency. At the threshold frequency, you will have totally zero stopping potential. You don't need to apply anything really. Similarly, at the stopping potential threshold frequency of the other metal, mu naught prime, the frequency, if you are at the threshold frequency, then stopping potential is zero because you need not apply any potential to the metal plates, because anyway the electrons will just be able to come out. They will not have any kinetic energy. If they do not have kinetic energy, they're not going to reach the collector plate at all. This is the gray area, that is the where the stopping potential, where the frequency is equal to the threshold frequency. If the frequency is kept less than the threshold frequency, it is impossible for the electron to come out of the metal. If the and you definitely don't require a stopping potential then, because the electron is already stopped. It doesn't have the threshold frequency also incident. If you apply the threshold frequency, you don't necessarily need a voltage to stop the electrons from reaching the collector plate. But if you have more than the threshold frequency, then the energy of the photons, like I said, is utilized in getting the electron out of the plate first, and then it has to also travel to the other plate, for which the polarity has to be reversed if you want to stop it from traveling, for example. So if you want the electron to not reach the collector plate, you cannot have a positive potential on the collector plate because the electron is negative. Then you need this kind of a system where the polarity is reversed and electrons are actually attracted back to the emitter plate. So in that particular scenario, you will actually be able to stop the electrons totally from reaching the collector plate, that is, right? Are you able to understand? So the amazing part is this straight line graph. Why is it a straight line? It is a straight line because, so sorry about that. What I was saying is that the frequency and the stopping potential are a straight line. Reason for that. Reason behind that Einstein's photoelectric states that h nu equal to kinetic energy plus phi naught. Now kinetic energy is actually equal to EV naught, where V naught is the stopping potential. That's the main thing. Okay. So you can say nu is equal to EV naught plus I. So if you write like instead of writing earlier what you have written, basically you have written that K plus phi naught, you can also say that of K plus phi, you can also say that it is EV naught plus phi. So H is equal to EV naught plus phi. Now you can see that nu versus V naught, it's a straight line equation, Y equal to mx plus C. Wherein nu equal to E by H V naught plus phi by H. So that way what you'll get is E by H nu naught plus phi by H. E by H is, which is m is the slope. I think it's the x equal to 0. This is the y coordinate. Okay, when x is 0, that is for 0 frequency. So 0 frequency doesn't happen. In reality, you don't apply 0 frequency, but this is where you'll end up. If you apply 0 frequency, then your h nu will be equal to, then your V naught will be equal to, no wait, I'm wrong here. What is it? Nu versus, if you apply 0 frequency, then your yeah, it's totally nonsensical to apply 0 frequency. So no need to even discuss particle instead of like the photon, then it stops. So I'll write short notes. Okay. When radiation interacts with matter, radiation, that means it can be visible light or invisible frequency. So I write light also just to understand, but light is used mostly for frequencies which are visible. Invisible frequencies like radio waves, infrared, ultraviolet, cosmic rays, X-rays, microwaves. All those rays are actually invisible, but you can call it light in general if you want, right? Example, light is radiation. Other things are also there. So when radiation interacts with matter, it behaves as if it is made up of particles called photons. Number two, each photon has energy E equals h nu. The energy is E equals h nu. And momentum P equals h nu by c or h by lambda. We'll get there later. And speed c, speed of light. I'm writing a little fast. You can read it later in your notes. I hope you have the notebook with you. Third one, by increasing the intensity of light, by increasing the intensity of light, we increase the number of photons that fall on a given area per second or per minute or per hour, but usually SI unit means per second. The photon's energy is dependent on the frequency of light and not the intensity. Next one. Photons are electrically neutral. There is no electric charge on photons. Next one. Last one. In a photon-electron collision, total energy and total momentum conserved. So essentially what you're having is conservation of energy and momentum are applied while the photon and electron are colliding. Is this all clear to you? I mean, you can read it again.